Hi guys, this is Fluid Sam from Fluid Social, coming to you from Fluid Carnaby Street. It's a fluid sunny day, really beautiful day today. I'm about to go to Brazil. I'm leaving in 3 days time, and today I'm going to talk to you about the 5 greatest epiphanies that I had when I was learning to approach women in the daytime. So I'm going to take you through these and then explain them a little bit more in depth afterwards. So the first epiphany that I had was that it was pauses in an interaction. So what happened when I started approaching women is I'd go up and I'd try and say as much as I can to kind of keep the conversation going and absolve myself of any awkwardness that might come when there's a silence. And it took me a couple of months at least before I started to realize that actually embracing a pause, staying silent, letting a moment sit between you and another individual so that you can analyze their body language to see how they feel, so that you can give your own mind space to come up with the right things to say, was incredibly valuable. So this first epiphany really gave me space to breathe and to understand how the other person was feeling, and it improved the dynamics of my interactions massively. Number 2, eye contact. What I realized is that I was going in, and though I was interacting with the person, I wasn't actually connecting with them by looking at them dead in the eye and again trying to understand how they feel. So this happened like 3 or 4 months later when I realized that if I just paused and looked them dead in the eye and just stared into their pupil, there was an intensity and a connection that came with that level of eye contact that simply wasn't present when I was just communicating with their body and their face but not really paying attention to the eyes. The third epiphany that I had, and this was a really important one, was to be the protector in all situations. So it happened one time when I was at a club with a friend of mine called Dan. And we went out, and I was still fairly new. I'd just become a coach at this point. But he introduced me to a beautiful Spanish girl that he was friends with, and I kind of froze up. I was with her and I was thinking like, shit, I don't know if I'm meant to be flirting, if I'm just making casual conversation. It feels like I'd be making small talk. I don't want her to tell Dan that I was a weirdo. I don't want to get it wrong. And all of these thoughts were rushing through my head. And I had this epiphany that if instead of figuring out how I should entertain this girl, I was just looking after her. So like, I started to look at her and think, is she warm enough? Is she comfortable? Is she in the right place? Has she got a drink? Is she okay? And instead of trying to, entertain her, I just turned into this protector, as if she was a part of my tribe, because I'm friends with Dan, and therefore it doesn't matter what I do as long as I keep her safe. And that was really huge for me, getting into the protector mode. And she recognized that in me, and she saw that I was just looking out for her, looking after her, and she had a massive amount of respect and attraction for me in that time. Obviously, she's a friend of my friend, and I didn't really want to go there. Maybe neither did she, but it was a huge epiphany moving forwards, where when I was with a girl, instead of thinking, how do I entertain her, I'd be thinking, is she warm enough? Is she comfortable? Is she okay? Am I on the right side of the road? Am I closer to the road than her, so that if there's an accident, she's not in any danger? And it really helped me to relax in the interactions and remember what's truly important. Number 4 was sexualizing a conversation. Now, I used to think that flirting and like adding some chemistry and sexuality into an interaction was something difficult and advanced and really hard. But what I realized is that just by introducing it softly into an interaction, you could change the entire dynamic almost immediately. So an example of this is if you're talking to a girl and early on in the interaction, you say something like, you know what, I get the impression you're more of a submissive girl. And then you let her kind of explore that. So she'll be like, what do you mean? And you can say like, well, you have girls that are kind of more dominant and like to lead and take control, and then you have women who kind of like to sit back and be led and let things happen. And you seem more submissive to me. And when you explain that with conviction, a lot of them really get into that idea of dominance versus submission, which isn't necessarily sexual, but it can easily lead along a sexual line. And once you introduce it into the interaction, it's much more likely to have that playful, sexual, flirtatious dynamic. So that was another big epiphany that came like 3 years ago. And the most recent one was that not to chase. So it's the idea that if a girl is not really giving you much back in an interaction, you just going for the phone number really isn't the best plan, because you kind of leave not knowing where you stand with her. You're not expecting a reply, so you send a random text message, and you get into the habit of repeating the same thing over and over again. Going out, doing an average approach, begging for a number, and then getting absolutely fuck all out of it. So what I realized is that you never chase. So instead in interactions, I'd be like, hey, I think you're pretty interesting. What are you up to tomorrow? I'd like to take you out for a drink, or I'd like to take you to so-and-so exhibition or theater. And then if they were interested in that idea and they said yes, then I would get the number purely to reconfirm that she was coming, to check if everything is good and on time. And if she didn't, then I'd be like, okay, well, it was nice to meet you. And what I found is that women would actually say, well, you know, I'm busy tomorrow, but you can take my number. And I would say to that, you know what, I'm really busy these days. If you can't confirm a time, I don't think it's likely that we're going to see each other. And then she would search for a time that suited both of us. We'd confirm the thing again, and the chances of her following through and us actually meeting were massively increased. So these 5 epiphanies, really have a think about them because they were hugely important to me. However, there's a big caveat here. A lot of you guys, especially the clients that I work with, you say something like, Sam, you know, I think we can take it easy this session because I had this epiphany where so-and-so and such, and you'll say something similar to the lines that I've just given you, something along the lines of the advice I've just given. And you think that that's a permanent fix, and from now on, you're never gonna have that problem again. It's done, it's sorted, it's over. It's not the case, it's simply not the case. These moments of epiphany, they're actually designed to take you out of a slump. So when you're feeling down or things are going really badly and you're on the verge of quitting or you're feeling like shit, you have one of these epiphanies to drag you out, to give you that boost, and then after a couple of weeks, they settle back down and you level out again. They're designed to take you from 0 to 100 real quick, and then you level out at a tidy 50. And then you can continue to progress incrementally from that point. So anyone thinking that these epiphanies are like a final fix and suddenly the game makes sense and I'm never gonna have these problems again, it's not true. You're gonna have these problems over and over and over again. The great thing about these epiphanies is that you can revisit them over time and get a similar, if not as extreme, effect from them. You can still improve certain situations with them, but if you think they're a total, final, absolute fix, you're under an illusion, and it's best to recognize that you're under an illusion so that when things are going well, you can ride the wave. When things are going badly, you can relax and let them naturally come back to a level 50%. So, think about the 5 epiphanies, let them help you, use the advice if you can, but don't think that these things are a final fix. Life, just as much as approaching women, is a constant battle. There's no winning. There's no point that you get to where you're invulnerable and everything's gonna go well. You're constantly learning, getting better and then getting worse again, improving, adapting, and growing. This has been Sam from London, my final 2 days. If you're interested in coming to Rio, get in contact with me and we'll arrange something over there. Beautiful weather, beautiful women, beautiful people. It's a beautiful lifestyle. I'll see you there. Sam out.